Welcome back, and we're talking about Ultimate Fighter again, and we're talking about, I think it's episode 11, and which is Kurt versus Jason Knight, and this was a fight. But let's start from the beginning. Let's start with the coach's challenge. I mean, they actually had Bruce Buffer there, and that ring girl, oh my God, she was my favorite ring girl. I mean, things are just popping out everywhere. I mean, like, wow. So what do you think of this trivia about, I think the winners got 10,000, which is just Connor or Chandler got the 10,000, and each one got 1,500, whoever won. So what do you think about the game itself?
So I thought the trivia was pretty fun, and it's cool to see fighters answer those questions, because I don't expect them to know everything, because they're just like in the gym all the time. They're not studying the books of the history of UFC. But the ice bath was I thought it was cool to see it and for the video aspect, right? But I don't know how long they're in there, other than the period they only show on TV. But it turns out they were in there for nearly 30 minutes.
Yeah, and 39 degrees water. I'm like, how do you make that happen? I'm like, that's crazy. But because I know Chandler was talking about how he just started getting used to it recently. But he's one of those shakers. Like they just start shaking, the mouth trembles. Like my son James does that shit. He's like, oh. I've never seen somebody shake like that so much. So but I really didn't see him shaking unless you did. But I thought he handled it pretty good.
Overall, it was pretty good. But you can see him shake a little. I know you had bad eyesight over there. Oh man, eyes. But he was. You could tell he was more in I guess in distraught versus Connor. Connor looked like he was just chilling. It was just another day, but I guess he can maintain his cool better than Michael. But it was definitely looked pretty cold. Because you can see on Michael's skin, because he's not all tatted up, but when he dipped in, and then whenever he reached out, you can see that red line all the way across his midsection.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so you could tell that was definitely taking his toll on his body.
Yeah, and the trivia was going back and forth. Of course, Connor was answering the questions. I think there were like 2 points away until the third round. And it looks like Chandler started coming out like he really wanted to win. He did not want to lose, and he wanted to make sure his team got some money, but it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, you could tell he was trying really hard. And it was just weird, though, because as they're in this ice bath, everyone looks like they're all happy. The UFC did a really good job of making the ice bath for 30 minutes look super light in terms of how extreme it really was, and even showed Dana White laughing and stuff like that. But then now days later we're hearing news about Dana White is super pissed at the production team, and he doesn't get how they even thought that was a good idea. Which to me, I mean, you're the big boss man of the UFC, you're the face of the UFC. It's say something, change it up, or it's all pre-recorded anyways.
Yeah, or hey, why don't we turn off the water for 10 minutes or something? Turn off the
they couldn't do that.
Yeah, but I mean, but didn't he know this was going to happen when he got there?
I mean, it sounds like he did it.
Because it looks like, if anything, that was a sponsorship that came in and they were advertising the product. But those guys were in there for 30 minutes? Is that what you said? 30 minutes or something like that?
That's intense.
That was a long time. So then Jason Knight and Kurt, I can't say his name, Holobaugh or something. Yeah. Those are two pretty much fighters. I mean, they were saying they're pretty much matched up all the way, but the only thing, Kurt had more power than Jason, and it really showed. And I could see that, but man, I was pretty excited because, again, like we talked about before, how their fights weren't that exciting. The last one was with Austin. I think that's the one where he won, because the first one we know was just a joke. So the anticipation for this one was there. So what do you think about the anticipation and all that?
Yeah, it was there, and they definitely delivered. Even for them two coming out of Chandler's camp, that was different versus the first match we saw, where it wasn't entertaining at all. So that was pretty cool to see. But it was straight chaos. Those guys were just throwing it, and each had to recover at some point during the fight. It was just going back and forth until someone ended it.
Yeah, I mean, but they didn't have no coaches, but their coaches were still telling them something between the rounds. So that's the one thing I liked about that, was that they were to say something. Were you able to remember anything about round one, how that one came out?
fuck. It was, to me, like, it was just a blur because, like, all those rounds were just chaos to me. I don't know. I just saw it go back and forth. I know you got your notes,
round
so I'll
one.
let you go through it.
This is what my play. All right, let's hope it kind of works out. All right. I was drinking when I was doing this, so let's see what happens. All right, so round one, they both came out punching. You know, Kurt was landing a right hand, and Jason kind of stumbles a little. That was the first thing that I saw. And then Kurt then pushes Jason to the fence. You know, someone's yelling, "Put up your hands," because I think that's what it was when I realized that Jason was not picking up his hands because Kurt was just unloading on him. And when they said, "Pick up your hands," whoever yelled it out, it came back up, and that's what I saw there. But I think Jason's hands were low. Jason keeps eating these jabs from Kurt. Kurt keeps putting on the pressure. Kurt keeps landing hard punches. Jason's face is red and small cut on the nose. I think that was the first thing that we saw there. But Jason is taking him and not falling down on that one, and that's when the round ends. So that was a pretty exciting fight. That was like, okay, this is it. This is what's going to happen. But I still noticed that Kurt was coming out strong, harder punches than Jason. But Jason was taking the punches.
Yeah, he had a hell of a chin.
Awesome
he had a hell of a chin to last that long.
He did.
But I do remember that, though. Like you said, like Jason... No, Kurt's hands were dropping a little bit low. No, Jason, right? And, yeah.
Jason's hands
I heard him call it out, and he picked them up right away. And like, that was like the difference compared to like the first match when everyone's silent and no one's correcting the fighter. And when you're in the middle of the fight, you don't really like process things correctly. And it's a big moment for these fighters. It's like do or die at this point. And yeah, you can tell the difference. So I was glad to see coaches in the corners saying something.
Yeah. Exactly, because I know some fighters, they go like this, they're fighting, or they have their hands out like this, but Jason's were way low. I know some fighters do that, but when you're taking punches, you know, they do something else with their hands. You know, some they do the eye poke thing. They're like this,
to keep
fighting.
the distance. Yeah,
but yeah, Jason should pick up that, you know, because it wasn't working for him there. Second round, Jason's more of a vocal fighter. He was talking there. I could hear him. I not hear him, but I could see his mouth moving. Kurt starts putting the pressure on again, both throwing punches and kicks. Jason's hands again are low. He's taking a lot of punches. Jason keeps getting hit in the face multiple times with Kurt. Kurt lands a right hand again, and then Jason backs up to the fence. Kurt then kicks a flying knee and then another. Then continues punches, then goes to the body. Oh, yeah, I saw him go to the body and then back up to the face. So, like, he was going back and forth on there. Jason falls again. Kurt then starts the ground and pound, and the fight is stopped at that point. So I think the second round, Kurt came out a little bit more, I wouldn't say aggressive, but more like more combinations, more throwing more than just one or two, and being relentless on his punches. And which reason was, to me, I think they stopped the fight there.
Yeah.
So I thought that was
there was a
fight.
big difference between like the confidence level when Kurt was in there versus Jason. Kurt's confidence was like, it was nothing compared to what Jason could not compare to what Kurt brought to the table, man. Kurt just kept on hammering down, using the combos, switching it up, which I love to see. And Jason, like you said, he was just eating up every single punch. Like, credit Jason for having a hell of a chin and making it to the second round with all those punches he took. But at some point it was to come to an end, and it was inevitable at that point. Yeah,
and you could tell Jason was going back a little bit more than usual. You know, he was like falling back, like he didn't want to stand toe to toe to him too much, you know. But he did. But at certain times, like he would back up a little bit, like he knew those punches were going to be hard and they were going to come out more. But he put up a fucking hell of a fight. I mean, this was freaking awesome. Even Dana White said, "Jesus Christ," you know. And then everybody was amazed of this fight, you know. And then Dana said this was the fight of the season. But one thing I liked was that both fighters were proud of their performance. That was pretty good. And they both were, you know, humble and recognizing each other for the power and the performance that they did. And I think we might be seeing Jason again. I don't think this was the end for him. I think we might see him again. I think he might come back for the UFC.
Yeah, I hope so.
Because he did put up a show.
For sure. He definitely belongs to be in that ring. Because there's a lot of other fighters that are probably still on the roster. I mean, and they don't deserve to be there versus the guy who gave out everything, in the ring. So I second that for sure.
And I think, I don't think. I saw Chandler talking to Kurt. But Chandler was pretty impressed on Kurt's performance. Like, he went out of his way to say, like, man, if this Kurt was here today, when you go back to the UFC, you're gonna have a good run in there. But Chandler was pretty impressed, and it wasn't just a show like, oh, he's a good fight, but he was really impressed with him. So I thought that was good. And then, of course, Jason was sent to the hospital for CT scans for facial bones and for his head and face and his right rib cage area. So let's see how he did, because his face was red. You could tell he ate some punches.
Yeah, for sure.
So what do you think about let's see, Kurt's going to eventually end up with Austin in the final fight. So that's going to be one. I think Austin's going to have to put up a better performance. He's going to have to watch out for that power. But I think Austin was taking down the fighters more, if I'm right. Or was he going to ground game on Austin?
I want to say yes.
So that's it. All right. So it'll be a grappler against one who stands up. So I'm curious to see how that goes. Kurt's going to have to keep it up, and he's going to have to. I mean, I haven't seen his ground game. I'm not sure how he does. I know he has a gym, so I'm pretty sure he works on that very well. But we'll see how that goes. Any last thoughts about this one?
No, I'm just excited to keep it going, keep the ball moving, see what's next for this last fight, I believe, right? For the semifinals. That's going to be exciting to see.
But the next fight is actually Connor's fighter, which is Rico DeCillo versus Chandler boy Cody Gibson. So that's going to be one. I mean, Connor's really going to be vocal.
He's going to bring it. He's going to bring everything to the table. He has to.
Yes, and Connor. I mean, when they're fighting, the fighters, even though they're Sanders, you could tell he's into it. Like, he wants to say more, but he does, but he's holding back. So I think this when he goes in the corner with Rico, we're going to hear a lot of McGregor.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch this, because finally McGregor's one and only winner gets to finally
gets
on the spotlight and get in that cage. So it's going to be interesting to see the coaching aspect, right, and see how much he really invests into this one fight versus the last couple fights that he had. I mean, he did have one guy move over, but it wasn't the same feeling, right? Because Conor, he went through it. He went through the ringer of emotions, man, losing 7 of the 8, only won 1. That's wild.
Like one after another. I mean, there was nothing in between.
Just week 8, he finally won.
So what do you think about? Yeah. So what do you think about Cody? Do you think he has a lot of pressure on him, knowing that this is only Chandler's boy, and not Chandler's, Conor McGregor's boy, and he could just take him out and be Chandler Knight at the? Oh no, this is this is a semifinal still, right?
So, yes.
Okay. So yeah, they could actually take out McGregor's boy, and it'll be all Chandler's night at the finals. So I don't know. I think Cody might have some pressure on him there.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, Cody's gonna come from Conor's camp, and Conor's gonna bring it. He's gonna bring the intensity. I'm pretty sure he's gonna bring everything that he feels. Chandler's camp. Yeah, he's gonna come in here, and I think both these coaches are going to invest in their fighters, because this fight means a little bit more than the others, like in terms of bragging rights.
Yeah, it does.
Like Chandler is fighting for once and for all going to finish Conor in this tough series, right? So that's going to be cool to watch. I'm interested to see how the training leading into this fight is going to look like, more than the fight itself, to be honest.
So then at the end of the season, the coaches usually fight. Is Conor going to be able to fight? Do you think he's going to be able to pull it off? I mean, like past the drug test or past the USADA and all that?
I think so. I think he's taking care of himself after his little vacation, and having some fun, partying up, and also the medication he was probably taking that we all suspect him. I don't know if it's 100% confirmed.
Yeah, because he got bigger.
He got swole. He got huge. But now he's dropping in size. Now you could tell a little bit that he's starting to thin out a little bit compared to his really maximized bulk self with some medication.
Yeah.
I think he was taking ibuprofen now. I don't think it was steroids. Yeah,
Oh,
it shouldn't
okay.
be too bad.
All
No,
That's good. That's good.
nah,
Then,
but yeah,
I had to start taking that.
I hope he fights though, but I think he should come clean. I don't think he will come out dirty or anything, and this fight that's going to be scheduled is going to fall through.
All right. Well, we'll see. Hopefully. I would like to see that. And plus, Conor really needs a win, too. I think he's on a losing streak, if I'm right.
I mean, the one guy that he got, wait, he won, right? The one guy that jumped over from Chandler's team to Conor's? He won that fight.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm talking about Conor himself.
Oh, okay. I was like, huh? No, yeah, I agree.
Like, no, Conor himself needs a win. So, if not, then we'll be talking about wrestling pretty soon.
I hope not. I hope that's not the case.
All right, you want to hear my funny
story?
story? All right, so I'm not sure if I told you already, but I was watching the UFC fight. I was watching the Nate Diaz versus Jake Paul fight, and I was watching SummerSlam all at the same time. I got 3 TVs going, all right? So UFC ended, so I'm able to see Jake Paul, Nate Diaz next. They were next. SummerSlam was next. Roman Reigns was going to come out, and my internet just goes out completely. Just out.
No way.
I'm like, oh, yeah. So I go to the router. It's fucking red. I'm like, oh, come on. So I'm able to get the SummerSlam back on my cell phone. I'm like, okay, cool. I could do that. But I couldn't get the Nate Diaz fight back on. Finally, it comes back on. The TV comes on. But my Fire Stick pay-per-view wasn't able to come back on at all. Nothing. I resulted to going on YouTube, hearing some commentary about, how's the fight's going. And the guy was doing pretty good. I just wish I had his channel name, but he did real good on there. But, man, I didn't get to see it. I got to get my money back for that fight still, since I was able to miss it. But I was just like so devastated. Like, I was ready to see Nate Diaz win, and I wasn't able to watch it, and that's probably why he lost, because I wasn't able to watch it. But there wasn't. I mean, you're all ready. I wasn't invited. My buddy was going to come over, but he had something to do. But we were just be watch the fight, and then, boom. He's like, I ain't coming here again.
Yeah, that's bad.
Anyways, all right. Well, that was it for me.
Yeah, my take for the fight wasn't too exciting for me. It was kind of funny towards the very end, but Nate Diaz, he was just kind of playing it slow, not trying to do too much. I think his game plan was not to take too much damage while Jake Paul unleashes all that power on him and then make it to like the last couple rounds and then finally let out. But Jake Paul was able to deliver on those punches throughout the entire fight. And he was able to rock him. At one point, he kind of like threw this like, it was like a left hook, I want to say. And it kind of grazed him on the top of the head.
Yeah.
And then Nate Diaz falls from that. They kind of lost the balance. I don't think it was like a true knockout or anything, but he did fall down, and then he got back up, and then they kept going. But it was kind of like that back and forth. Like Nate Diaz had a few moments here and there, but the rest of it was all Jake Paul. And in the very end, Nate Diaz okay, I think it was in the ninth round. Nate Diaz, he kind of like rocks Jake Paul, but Jake Paul grabs him immediately and is holding it as long as he can to like recover and Nate Diaz is trying to get him off of him, but he's not letting go, and then the ref finally steps in, but it was like 15-20 seconds later, and that was it. So that was like his one and only moment where he probably could have executed and delivered, but Jake Paul, it's a smart game, right? For boxing, you got to play the way it's played, and that's what he did. So I don't blame him, right? Like, you're about to get knocked out, just go and hug the guy, give him a kiss on the cheek, and hold it for as long as you can. Which is why I don't really watch too much boxing, because it's kind of, I don't know, I think it's kind of silly. Like, I like UFC where it's just like, you if it happens, it happens, and then the ref is going to stop it. Herb Dean doesn't stop fights early no more, so he's gotten better about it.
Yeah, he saw Brock Lesnar's fight early.
Yeah, so most of these refs are really good now. I don't have too many complaints with the current referees for the UFC. But yeah, back to the Jake Paul fight. At the very end, Jake Paul, I don't know what happens, but he's like, his head's ducking down, and Nate Diaz puts him in a little guillotine, a little modified guillotine. And And he's just like having fun at the end. But this might be the segue into the MMA match they're supposedly trying to set up. Jake Paul is saying he's reaching out to Nate Diaz, and Nate Diaz is not responding about it. So we'll see. It's that back and forth banter. I don't know what's true or not, but we'll see what happens.
All right, but what do you think about this Jake Paul, 20-something-year-old, can't even take out a 40-year-old UFC fighter who does? I mean, he is a boxer, but not as his primary, sport. I mean, he wasn't able to take him down. I mean, he had to go to a decision.
Yeah, no, so I always felt that way because even with watching Anderson Silva, who's it was 41 I think when he fought Jake Paul. Jake Paul is not running through these guys. I mean, these are battles. I probably expected Tyron Woodley to do better against Jake Paul, right? Versus these other two guys.
I did too.
But that's like the elephant in the room though that you called out. He's not running through these guys. I don't think him versus elite boxers that did not come from any other world like he did from YouTube and all that bullshit and the entertainment side of the life. These guys come from the barrio, or the hood, and these guys train. This is the way they're going to make their money and stuff like that. He's not fighting those type of fighters, and those are a different breed of fighters. But then he'll fight these guys that have different backgrounds in fighting, right? And they came up from the ground up. But it's mixed martial arts. It's not just it's not boxing alone. So they learn different aspects of everything. They don't get to perfect their craft in the striking in terms of boxing. And that's like the elephant in the room. I don't see Jake Paul beating elite boxers. And when that finally happens, I'll be laughing. But we'll see what happens.
What about somebody his age in UFC who's in their prime, like his weight class?
For boxing?
Do you think he'll be able to pull it up? No, UFC.
Oh, UFC? No.
Because he wants to get into MMA.
No, he's years behind. He's too far behind. It's already been... That road's already been traveled through for boxers coming in, and they'll come in and knock a couple guys out, and they didn't stand a chance. But once you hit that mid-tier section of the NFL, I'm already talking about football, the UFC rankings, then you're gonna see those guys pick those boxers apart, or when they only have one craft in terms of the mixed martial arts, it's not gonna get too far. Kind of like Brock Lesnar. He was able to fucking force himself into the championship, right, and become a champion. But then guys figured him out. And then now they're able to win against him. I know that's your guy. I'm so sorry to bring that up.
I don't know what you're talking about. He beat Frank Mir. He beat Shane Carwin. What are you talking about? I don't understand what we're talking about. These are dominant fighters.
Yeah, but it was only going to last for so long until they figured him out. I mean, he has the wrestling background, and he's a hell of a fucking striker. But that's a different beast, though, in itself, too, James, because that's heavyweight, and heavyweight...
He got a liver punch, and he was down. Come on. You will go down, too.
Oh, of course. Heavyweight guys, that's a different beast. So, it's...
Fucking hit harder.
Yeah, you're not worried too much about jiu-jitsu at fucking close to 300 pounds,
Hey, Derrick Lewis got a new contract. He has an 8-fight contract.
Yeah,
Wasn't that awesome?
I was about to say that too. I was waiting for the end. But yeah, our boy, the Black Beast, he's coming back for 8 more fights. So we got a good 3-4 more years probably.
Yeah.
So that's exciting to see him pull that off. Because I thought he wasn't coming back after that last fight. Not the one before last. But like we mentioned, man, Derrick Lewis still got it in him. He's training harder. He's doing different things, letting it all out. He says he's trying some new bullshit, and it's working out. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, then Ian Garry, our fighter, man. He's, that guy, Gary, whatever is McGarry, whatever. He's not in the fight no more. So now they're looking for a fighter or somebody else to fight. Yeah, so they're looking for a replacement for Ian Garry.
Yeah, that sucks. I don't know who they could put in place.
Man. Yeah, that's like 2 weeks away, Sterling.
Still some time at least. There's over a week. But no one that deserves to fight Ian Garry is going to be ready.
Yeah, they have to be ready for that fight.
It's not just a slide in and kind of like the Bo Nickel and the other guy from that other league. Then the guy gets put down in 30 seconds or something like that. So...
That was embarrassing. All right, man. Well, until next time, and we'll see you the next episode, and we'll go over that again.
All right.
All right.
Later, guys.
Till
Peace
next
out.
time.